Welcome back to the Stephen A. Smith Show. Before I get on out of here, I had to talk about a story that's very, very important. And albeit indirectly, it involves Caitlin Clark.
The world of professional sports operates on a set of unspoken rules, a hierarchy that everyone is supposed to follow. You pay your dues, you wait your turn, and you respect the system that came before you. But what happens when the system is broken? What happens when the very people meant to uphold it are the ones tearing it down? For months, we've watched the drama surrounding Caitlin Clark unfold in the WNBA, the hard fouls, the bitter comments, the sense that she was an outsider who needed to be put in her place. But while the veterans were focused on hazing the rookie, a seismic shift was brewing in the shadows. And now the rumor is out. It's no longer a whisper. It's a billion-dollar threat that has just been validated on national television, and it could erase the WNBA as we know it. The story is no longer about petty jealousy. It's about a hostile takeover, and the targets are Caitlin Clark and Sophie Cunningham. This isn't just a sports story. It's a case study in what happens when institutional neglect collides with unprecedented global capital. The entire model of women's professional sports is being stress-tested in real time, and the initial cracks are appearing not from external pressure, but from internal rot. The failure to recognize a paradigm shift when it's happening right in front of you is often the beginning of the end for any established organization. The WNBA had a chance to evolve, to embrace a new era of stardom and economic power. Instead, they clung to an outdated mentality, and in doing so, they may have signed their own death warrant. The warning signs were all there, ignored by those in power until it was too late. Before we get started, if you're fascinated by the business behind the game and the stories that change sports forever, make sure you hit that subscribe button and ring the bell. You don't want to miss what we're breaking down today. The loudest voice in the room on this issue has always been Stephen A. Smith. While other analysts tiptoed around the controversy, Smith called it what was from the very beginning. He didn't see the relentless physical punishment Clark was taking as competitive spirit. He saw it as jealousy. Plain and simple. He erupted on air over the hip check from Chindi Carter, demanding to know why the league wasn't protecting its golden goose. He highlighted the absurdity of a generational talent-flying commercial, while her jersey sales were breaking records. But his most recent warnings have shifted in tone. They've moved from criticism to a dire prediction. Stephen A. has been stating relentlessly that the market always corrects itself. You cannot suppress a superstar whose market value is in the hundreds of millions while paying her a salary that wouldn't cover an NBA benchwarmer's monthly check. By giving credence to these rumors of outside investment, Smith is essentially delivering the ultimate "I told you so." The league treated Caitlin Clark like an enemy, and now she might just become their competition. Smith's role here is crucial because he represents the voice of the mainstream sports media, a demographic the WNBA has desperately craved for years. His persistent focus on this issue forced a narrative out of niche basketball circles and into the forefront of sports conversation. He wasn't just commenting on basketball, he was highlighting a fundamental business failure. His arguments resonated because they were built on irrefutable logic. Talent and market demand will always find a way to be compensated fairly, and if the current system refuses to do it, a new system will emerge to take its place. His validation of the Saudi rumors isn't mere speculation. It's a signal to his vast audience that this is a credible, developing story, and that the consequences of the WNBA's inaction are now materializing in the most dramatic way imaginable. To understand why this is even a possibility, you have to look at the numbers, because this is where the WNBA's entire argument falls apart. Caitlin Clark, the woman who single-handedly spiked attendance, shattered TV ratings, and made the WNBA relevant to millions who had never watched a game before, signed a rookie contract for 4 years and roughly $338,000. That breaks down to about $76,000 for her first year. Let that sink in. She is the rising tide lifting all boats, generating millions in revenue for the league and her teammates, and her financial reward is a figure that some influencers make from a single brand deal. The league's defense has always been that they don't have a revenue, that they've been losing money for decades. But Caitlin Clark fixed that problem almost overnight. She became the revenue. And in return, she was handed a salary that is an insult to her impact. This financial chasm is the crack in the foundation. And into that crack, $1 billion offer is about to be poured. Consider the specific numbers. Her Indiana Fever games are consistently breaking attendance records, both at home and on the road. The WNBA's media rights deal, which is currently a paltry $60 million annually, is up for renewal precisely because networks see the value Clark brings. Her jersey was not just a top seller. It became the top-selling jersey for any NBA or WNBA player immediately after she was drafted. The league's own marketing and visibility are an all-time high directly because of her presence. Yet, the collective bargaining agreement, designed for a pre-Clark era stability, has no mechanism to adequately reward this level of individual impact. This isn't just an underpayment. It's a systemic failure to create a flexible economic model that can accommodate a transcendent talent. When the value you create is measured in hundreds of millions and your compensation is measured in thousands, the disconnect isn't just a problem. It's an invitation for disruption. If this strategy sounds familiar, it's because we've seen this movie before and we know exactly how it ends. Cast your mind back to the world of professional golf. The PGA Tour was the establishment. It had a monopoly on the sport, controlling the players, the tournaments, and the money. Then, the Saudi Public Investment Fund launched LIV Golf. They didn't ask for permission. They didn't try to work within the system. They went straight for the players' wallets. They offered legends like Phil Mickelson and stars like Dustin Johnson contracts worth hundreds of millions, guaranteed money just for showing up. The media outcry was deafening. They called it sports washing. They accused the players of greed. But a funny thing happened. The players took the life-changing money. And the PGA Tour, after years of fighting and moral posturing, was ultimately forced to merge with the very entity it claimed to despise. The playbook has been written, tested, and proven successful. Now, insiders believe the exact same script is being opened for women's basketball. The WNBA is vulnerable. The players are notoriously underpaid. The travel conditions are often subpar. The stars are publicly unhappy. It is the perfect environment for a raid. By targeting Caitlin Clark, the Saudis aren't just signing a player. They are unplugging the engine from the entire WNBA machine. The parallels are almost eerie. Like the PGA Tour, the WNBA has enjoyed a monopolistic position for so long that it has become complacent. It assumed there was no alternative for its players. LIV Golf proved that wrong by creating a more player-friendly product. Fewer events, no cuts, team formats, and guaranteed money. A Saudi-backed basketball league could offer the same. A global tour with events in major international cities, private jet travel, and no grueling 40-game season. They wouldn't be buying a league. They'd be buying a headline act and building a new, more luxurious stage for it. The PGA Tour's merger with LIV wasn't a surrender based on morality. It was a business decision forced by the loss of its top assets. The WNBA is now facing that exact same existential equation. But a league can't run on one star alone. You need a narrative. You need chemistry. You need a supporting cast that amplifies the main attraction. This is where the inclusion of Sophie Cunningham in these rumors is a stroke of brutal business genius. Why her? Why not a more decorated veteran like Aya Wilson or Brianna Stewart? The answer is cold, hard marketability. Sophie Cunningham has cultivated a massive and dedicated following. She's more than a player. She's a brand. She's gritty, outspoken, photogenic, and a master of social media. The cameras love her for a reason. She has the it factor that transcends the basketball court. The speculation is that this new venture wants to build a global product, a spectacle. And a dream duo of Caitlin Clark and Sophie Cunningham is a marketing department's fantasy. You have the humble generational shooting savant in Clark, paired with the tough, charismatic enforcer in Cunningham. It's a dynamic that covers every demographic and creates a ready-made rivalry and partnership all in one. They wouldn't just be players, they would be the faces of the revolution. Cunningham represents something crucial that pure statistics can't capture: personality and edge. In a potential breakaway league, storylines are currency. The narrative of Clark, the prodigy, alongside Cunningham, the established veteran who embodies the toughness and fire that the WNBA claimed Clark lacked, is a perfect dramatic foil. It creates instant conflict, camaraderie, and intrigue. Furthermore, Cunningham's social media presence, where she actively engages with fans and doesn't shy away from controversy, means she brings a built-in and highly engaged audience. This isn't about assembling the most statistically dominant team on paper. It's about creating the most compelling product for a global television audience that may not be hardcore basketball purists. They are selling a story, and the story of Clark and Cunningham is far more marketable than a simple super team. Of course, none of this would be remotely plausible if the WNBA had rolled out the red carpet for its new superstar. But the reality was the polar opposite. From the moment she entered the league, it felt like open season on Caitlin Clark. Remember Diana Taurasi's comments before Clark was even drafted, warning that reality is coming? It set a tone that felt less like a welcome and more like a threat. Then the game started, and the message was delivered with elbows and shoulders. Clark was grabbed, held, hammered in the paint, and knocked the floor on a regular basis, often with what seemed like a conscious effort from the officials to let them play. The Chundy Carter incident wasn't a basketball play. It was a deliberate act of hostility, and the world saw it. This created an environment where Clark wasn't just fighting opponents. She was fighting an entire culture that seemed to resent her existence. Why would anyone show loyalty to a workplace that allows, and at times even seems to encourage, such a hostile reception, when the alternative is not only astronomical wealth, but also the promise of being valued and protected? The choice becomes painfully simple. This hazing narrative provided the perfect moral and public relations justification for Clark to eventually leave. Had she been embraced, leaving for money alone could have painted her as greedy. But the WNBA veterans and the league's passive officiating gifted her a narrative of self-preservation. She wouldn't be leaving for just money. She'd be leaving for respect, for safety, and for an environment where her talent is celebrated rather than resented. This emotional component is a powerful motivator and makes her potential departure not just a business decision, but a relatable human one. Anyone who has ever felt bullied or undervalued at a job would understand her choice, making her a more sympathetic figure and blunting potential criticism from fans. Now, let's switch perspectives and step into the office of WNBA Commissioner Kathy Engelbert. If these rumors are true, she is staring down the barrel of an existential crisis. The WNBA's entire future is currently hinging on the negotiation of a new media rights deal. They are marching into meetings with giants like Disney and Amazon, asking for billions of dollars. And their entire sales pitch is one thing: the Caitlin Clark effect. They are showing charts of skyrocketing viewership and sold-out arenas, and saying, this is what you're buying. But if Clark is poached by a rival league, that entire leverage vanishes in an instant. The TV networks aren't paying for the WNBA. They are paying for Caitlin Clark. Without her, the ratings plummet, the casual fans disappear, and that billion-dollar media deal turns into a fraction of the asking price. The ultimate irony here is absolutely devastating. The veterans who engaged in a hazing and propagated the pay your dues narrative might, through their own actions, have cost themselves the very revenue sharing and increased salaries that a new TV deal provided. It's a self-inflicted wound of catastrophic proportions. Engelbert's nightmare doesn't end with a media deal. Sponsors who have newly entered the WNBA landscape, attracted by Clark's marketability, would likely have exit clauses or would simply not renew. The league's valuation, which has seen a significant bump, would crater. Her legacy as commissioner will be defined not by growth, but by presiding over the league's collapse at the moment of its greatest potential. The internal politics will become a nightmare, with players fracturing into pro-Clark and anti-Clark camps, all while the financial foundation of the league disintegrated. It's a leadership test of the highest order, and the tools she has to combat a billion-dollar rival are woefully inadequate. This leads us to the elephant in the room that we can't ignore: the moral dilemma. Anytime the Saudi PIF is involved, the criticism of sports washing follows. Critics will rightly point to the nation's human rights record and argue that this is an attempt to use sports to clean up its image. This is a valid and serious conversation, but for the athletes themselves, the calculus is brutally different. As Stephen A. Smith often points out, morality doesn't pay the bills. When male athletes take enormous sums from countries with controversial human rights records, the outrage is often short-lived. For female athletes who have been financially marginalized their entire careers, the choice is even more stark. Can we truly judge a woman for accepting a $10 million check for securing generational wealth for her family when her current employer, the league she dreamed of playing in, values her at $76,000 and allows her to be treated like a punching bag? History shows us that the initial public outrage eventually fades. Fans follow the stars. If Caitlin Clark and Sophie Cunningham are playing in a new, glitzy international league, the audience will find them. The wealth, however, is permanent. This dilemma forces an uncomfortable conversation about the selective application of moral scrutiny in global sports. Many of the same corporations and media companies that would criticize such a move have significant business interests in countries with similar or worse human rights records. The reality for the athletes is that this offer represents not just wealth, but agency, the power to control their own careers, to be valued at their true worth, and to escape a system that has shown them profound disrespect. For generations of female athletes who have been told to be grateful for any opportunity, the chance to finally wield this kind of power is an offer that may be too transformative to refuse, regardless of the source. We are standing at the edge of the biggest shift in the history of women's professional sports. The warnings were issued. The mistakes were made, and the consequences are now knocking on the door with a check that the WNBA simply cannot cash. The rumored billion-dollar disruption, headlined by Caitlin Clark and Sophie Cunningham, is more than a business move. It's a revolution. It's a market correction that the WNBA was given every chance to avoid. They had a once-in-a-lifetime talent fall into their laps, and instead of building the future around her, they allowed the past to try and break her. So, the question is no longer she will leave. The evidence, the logic, and the financial sense all point to one inevitable conclusion. The question is when. And when that press conference happens, when the numbers are revealed that dwarf an entire league's payroll, the sports world will be rewritten forever. The era of athlete leverage has arrived in women's basketball, and the WNBA may have already lost. This is a wake-up call for every professional sports league that takes its talent for granted. It proves that in the modern era, the players are the product, and if you fail to honor that basic principle, you risk becoming obsolete overnight. The story of Caitlin Clark is no longer just about basketball. It's a lesson in economics, leadership, and the unforgiving nature of a free market. If you made it to the end of this video, you clearly have a passion for the real stories that shape the games we love. Let us know in the comments below. Would you follow Caitlin Clark and Sophie Cunningham to a new league, or would your loyalty remain with the WNBA? And don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you don't miss our next deep dive into the stories that everyone will be talking about.